This is a story of two pamphlets, Common Sense and Truth or Deception. Common Sense was written by Thomas Paine and first published on January 10th, 1776. It was like a bombshell had gone off. In a matter of weeks, the mood of the colonies changed from confusion and indecision to strongly favoring independence. Events moved so fast that 6 months later the Declaration of Independence was signed and America was free at last of oppression. Way back then the oppressor was England, the mother country. Today we have a similar problem. That's why someone had to write this pamphlet. You may have noticed a disturbing pattern in the United States over the last 8 years. One disaster after another keeps happening, and they're getting worse. First, we saw a record surplus turn into a record deficit. Then we saw a totally unjustified war begin. Then the occupation fell apart due to poor planning and false assumptions. Then we started to see our constitutional rights getting chipped away and the horrors of torture and the managerial disaster of Hurricane Katrina. And lately, we're starting to see the subprime mortgage crisis problem grow into a crisis so large it's being compared to the Great Depression. All of these events were avoidable. So what's going on? Why have we been unable to prevent these things from happening? This pamphlet may have the answer. It's because too many people have been unable to tell political falsehoods from the truth. So this pamphlet is called Truth or Deception. It's all about how to pause and consider any political statement and determine whether it's the truth or not. If enough people read this pamphlet, then we can do exactly what our ancestors did when they read Common Sense. They suddenly saw the truth and they rose up and threw off their oppressor forever. 232 years ago, the oppressor was the king and aristocracy of England. Who's the oppressor today? That's pretty obvious when you look at all the problems we've been having lately. Who benefits from these problems? That's not hard to guess. Deficits mean you have to shrink the government to try to balance the budget, which means less regulation of business. War is extremely profitable. And of course, the longer a war is, the longer it rains money on the military-industrial complex. The less rights we the people have, the less we can do to prevent oppression. The more our government uses torture, the less likely we the people are to dissent, because we are subconsciously afraid of being arrested and tortured. What about the financial crisis? Loans to folks who cannot afford to pay them back increases the amount of loans made, which increases profits. These extra profits benefit the most powerful two special interest groups in the world. There they are, the truth revealed. Now here's what explains the root cause of our predicament. There are two dominant life forms in the biosphere, corporations and humans. The goal of for-profit corporations is to maximize the short-term value of profits. Meanwhile, the goal of people is to maximize quality of life for themselves and their descendants. But these two goals are so mutually exclusive that the system cannot be designed to achieve both. Instead, the system now favors the corporate life form at the expense of people. This was achieved through a long series of tiny little changes to the law. Each change was so small that we the people hardly noticed, as step by little step, the corporate life form was giving itself stronger and stronger powers, until today it has what amounts to superhuman powers. Corporations have an infinite lifespan. We don't. Corporations can be in many places at the same time. We can't. Corporations can own slaves like themselves. People cannot. A corporation can create a new corporation in hours. With people, it takes 9 months. Corporations can hibernate indefinitely in hard times, have an unlimited body and brain size, can store their food, which is money, forever at almost no cost, and so on. Meanwhile, people are just people. We can't do any of these things. The result is that corporations, who were originally designed to be artificial servants of the people, have taken over. In the industrialized world, corporations are in control of food systems, technology, energy, culture, and of course, politicians. They have become our masters, and we their, well, I'll let you fill in that word yourself. So what can we do about throwing off these oppressors? Well, the first step would be to read this pamphlet so that people can see when they are being deceived into supporting the wrong politicians or the wrong policies. So read the pamphlet. It's only 48 pages long, the same number of pages as Common Sense. The pamphlet contains a tool you've probably never seen before, the Truth Test. This is a simple 4-question test designed to tell if a political statement is true, false, or just plain nonsense. The pamphlet also contains the pyramid of political deception, which classifies the 4 main elements of deception. Near the end is the truth revealed, the assault on all but the rich, followed by the climax of the pamphlet, the big lie revealed, the 4 deficits. These are the trade deficit, the fiscal deficit, the private debt deficit, and the environmental deficit. All are unsustainable. All are in severe overshoot. One of them, the private debt deficit, is the gremlin behind the financial meltdown we are struggling with right now. Once you've read the pamphlet, you will see these truths so clearly that the imaginary universe that deceptive politicians have built for you to live in will disappear. After you've read the pamphlet, you will be transformed just like those who read Common Sense in 1776. You will now be foolproof. You can no longer be deceived by crafty politicians who are trying to trick you into electing them, and then after that, into supporting destructive policies like those we've seen over the last 8 years. What's going to happen when a majority of voters know the truth test and can see the truth? Political deception will no longer work. Politicians will no longer be able to fool you into thinking they are working for you, when in reality, they are working for special interests. Election day will come. The corrupt politicians will be voted out, and the ones who work for the common good will be voted in. Then those special interests will no longer be in power. So guess what? We can take down that sign. And here's the real miracle. If we can pass the ideas in the pamphlet on to our children and their children and so on, then we can throw away that sign forever. Thereafter, the system will be working for the common good of all instead of the uncommon good of the few, which is the whole idea of democracy. This pamphlet and this one were written for the same reason, to wake up a nation. If you suspect that all the problems we've been having lately are only symptoms of a deeper problem, that democracy itself is in danger, then go online at TruthTest.org and read the pamphlet. After you've read it, if it seems like good common sense, then pass it on. Tell everyone you know about the video and the pamphlet. If enough people do this, then what do you think will probably happen?